recorded live.
Welcome to Researcher 135 Community Call. Daily Talk with host Rich Vernadeau. Daily Talk, Researcher 135 Community Call. Daily Talk is a weekly call-in talk show which airs on www.talkshow.com every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Call in your questions or comments. 724-444-7444 and call ID 13739. Please press the pound sign.
Good evening. Welcome to Researcher 135's Community Call, Daily Talk with your host, Rich Vernadeau. Tonight we will be discussing the dreadful Dallas police ambush that occurred Thursday night, in which 5 police officers lost their lives. And I see we have a caller from Northeast Texas. Good evening, Northeast Texas.
Good evening, Rich. How's everything?
Well, hanging in there. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be on.
Thank you very much. One of the elements here, as Reuters News Service is talking about, apparently this was a lone gunman who was not affiliated directly with any organizations. He was a veteran. Michael Xavier Johnson, 25, described as an Army veteran of the Afghanistan War. He loved weapons and had a hatred of white people, which he said, and which the police chief of Dallas, Michael Brown, brought out during the press conference. They used a robot to deliver a bomb to finally take out this killer in the end, and that is historically the first use of a robot device to kill a perpetrator like this after a long standoff that went on for hours and hours. The dead are Lauren Aarons, 48 years old, patrol and property crime scene, who had been on the Dallas PD force since January of 2002. Michael Kroll, who was 40, originally from Wayne County, Michigan, where he worked in the jail system there before coming to Dallas and going to work for Dallas Police Department. Michael J. Smith, who had been with the Dallas Police Force since September 1989 and was also himself a 7-year Army veteran. Brent Thompson, 43, who had been with DART since 2009. This is the first loss of a DART officer in the line of duty through a violent death. Patrick Zamaripa, 32 years old, 7-year veteran of the force, a Navy veteran as well, who had done tours in Iraq. And one of the tragedies, caller, about this type of thing is the retaliatory violence aspect of it, and the fact that there have already been copycat incidents, one in Bristol, Tennessee, involving a 37-year-old Lakeem Keon Scott. There's 1 dead there and 3 wounded. Officer Matthew Cousins was one of the wounded in that case in Bristol. And then there was a case in Valdosta, Georgia, and in Baldwin, Missouri. So, caller, if you have comments or questions about this, please weigh in on these tragic events.
Well, there's just no respect for authority anymore.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think that stems from?
All kinds of reasons, but the root cause, I think, is because the black-white issue, but more than that is the single parent, the single mother.
Mm-hmm.
Single mothers don't naturally discipline their children or teach them any respect for authority, and they grow up with a chip on their shoulder.
Well, one of the precipitating factors in all of this And one of the reasons for the peaceful protests, of course, both there in Dallas and in many other cities nationwide, and including a big one in Atlanta Friday, in which the demonstration was so big that it brought Atlanta traffic to a standstill. One of the precipitating factors seems to be police shootings of black men. One in Louisiana and in Minnesota are allegedly the two of the triggering aspects that, in this particular case, this Micah Xavier, those are two of the precipitating events that seems to be fueling this type of response.
Yeah, well, you've got in the black community, you've got a culture that sees themselves as victims, and it's backed up and it's exacerbated and backed up by the press. When you get a bunch of people that feel like they've been mistreated, and you get them all together in a group, and then somebody that is perceived to be a member of the oppressing class happens to come along, he's in a world of trouble. I saw it in Dallas. I didn't see it personally, but it occurred in Dallas back in the 80s. A young 2-year rookie officer responded to a man talking crazy. I mean, I got a call about a man acting crazy and talking crazy and approaching people and everything down close to the Greyhound bus station. And the officer approached him, and they got into a scuffle. It was a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
Got into a scuffle, and the black guy took the white officer's pistol.
Uh-huh.
Well, when that happened, all the black people around there, which most of the people hanging around the bus station are black, all the black people hanging around there started taunting him, telling him to shoot the cop. Shoot him. And so he did. It was a typical mob incident, and in fact I wrote there was the Fort Worth Star Telegram. I wrote a letter to the editor of the Fort Worth Star Telegram about that incident, and they printed it.
Mm-hmm.
I still have the article here somewhere. But anyway, the black community sees themselves historically as victims.
Well, and it's historically accurate. There's been so much systemic and literal racism at so many levels, physical and economic, within our country. The Jim Crow laws, of course, the lynchings, all the way up until the 60s when Martin Luther King, of course, led the civil rights movement. People were still getting killed and brutalized then throughout the South. And big city police departments have been notorious in their handling of the black community. So there's a very real and valid level of resentment there on the part of the community that can be borne out. You know what I'm saying? I'm just observing that. I would like to welcome my Observer 22. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
If you would like to comment or make a statement or a question, weigh in on the issues, that would be great.
Okay, I will. This is new for me, so I'm just going to listen and then I'll share my thoughts.
Okay, great. We look forward to it. Becky Glackenbuchko in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, in the chat room says the real cause of the chaos in America is because of the jobs that were sent away. It used to be Dad worked in the factory and Mom stayed home. Becky has a point here and raised the kids. If we were bad, Mom knew even before we got home, and she made sure we didn't repeat it. So, yeah, there was a level of discipline some years ago, definitely, within the home that is missing nationwide. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes, and in black families, the father is missing. The father is gone. In a lot of cases, an awful lot of the cases.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the problem is, right there. when boys are raised without their father, they generally go in one of two directions. They'll either be a very self-centered, narcissistic, and with a strong sense of entitlement, like what's his name? What is his name? Sam Cooke. Or they'll be neglected in childhood, and in addition to not having a father, and they grow up with a self-hate, which manifests itself in a hatred for all men, especially white men, and that's been going on for generations. So what you wind up with is a culture when people are taught from the cradle on that we're victims and the white people are out to kill us and this and that and the other, then you're going to have people that want to make a statement and actually believe that stuff. But it's not true. The media drives it. Almost every one of the deaths, allegedly police brutality deaths that has happened, has been the police. The court system has found them not guilty, and most of them were not guilty. Now I don't agree with I think some of them was
Henry. There is a level of systemic racism throughout our culture that has manifested itself. Even there's many cases. It has even happened to Oprah Winfrey, for example, in a store, and there was a great deal said about this. People in all walks of life, all economic situations, professional black men feel intimidated and threatened by police because there is that level of racism present in many police, perhaps not all, but in many police jurisdictions throughout the country. There's something going on that has to be recognized. Something that Becky points out here. Now kids are raising themselves. I raised my children as a single mother. They did not have their father around. And she talks about, and guest 4, a different person, guest 4 says, yes, it is extreme for blacks. So many black grandmothers are raising their grandchildren. There's so many dynamics involved in all of this. We have to be aware of all the many different things that are going on.
You know what? One thing that's going on. I'll tell you one thing that's going on. Opposite cultures, opposite people, totally opposite, as opposite as you can get, and still be the same species, have been forced to mingle and mix together against their will. And that's been going on now for 400 years. Blacks were brought to this country against their will, when they gained power, which was in the 60s, the blacks took over power, and now that they're mixing with white people against their will. So you got two groups that have a different identity, different color, different everything about them is different, except their humanity. But they're being forced to mix together against their will. The problem is, and there's no answer for it because they're already here, and but that's one aspect. I'm not saying that's the problem. The problem is the single mothers raising psychopathic children. All the penitentiaries are full of black men, and yes, there is racism. Sure, you know why? Because there is different races. I mean, it's natural to be. Everybody's racist to some extent or a degree. It may not be against another race. It may be against their own race. But everybody has racism because racism is a human. I mean, it's human to to prejudge. I mean, when people fall in love, they make a judgment call about, oh, this person is better than any other person in the world, which is not true.
But you have to draw a distinction between the environment, between what people are taught versus the natural. And I do not believe that children are naturally or instinctively racist at all. That sort of thing is taught within the home. That is a learned behavior.
That's not true.
Go ahead.
It's not true. That's not
I
true.
like to respond to the gentleman that's speaking. He had said something earlier. I'm gonna catch up with him when he was talking about the media driving racism. I guess what you would call African American, but I'm really not African American because I'm Choctaw, which means I'm Native American, which I was already here, or my people was already here. Not all blacks came over or Africans came over on the boat. If we go back beyond 400 years of slavery, go back thousands of years, a lot of us were already here. They want you to think that we were all brought over here on a boat. That's why it's so easy for some people to say, go back home to your country when this is our country. And another thing is my family never taught me racism. I learned racism, or not saying that I'm racist, but I experienced racism at a small town school that I went to. Nobody in my family said to hate white people or nothing like that. I went to school with white kids who called me and my friends' names, and teachers who found out that their daughter was dating a black guy and they would move to a totally different state behind it. I don't know if it's shame or hatred. So, and another thing about, I have a lot of friends who grew up in single-parent homes. I have friends who grew up with their fathers, and they turned out not to be, I guess, what you would think would come from a co-parented home. And I don't think that parents are always to blame. I think at one point that we as individuals have to take responsibilities for our own actions. I grew up with both my parents, and I could be bad. My brothers, they're different from me, but I chose to live my own life and be accountable for my own actions and to be great on my own and not be influenced by anyone else. And I think more people need to be like that, not be so dependent on outside sources and look within, self-education and everything else for improvement in this world.
I agree. Let me ask you a question. Do you have an urge to get a gun and go out and kill white cops?
No, not at all.
Why not? Your people have been mistreated more than the black people. Your people suffered a genocide.
Yeah, but
so why
what
not?
is that going to change? Why keep on two wrongs don't make a right?
Well,
so why keep doing it?
It won't. What I'm trying to get at is the media is pushing. The media is trying to stir up hard feelings
race war
in the black community, and they're doing a good job of it. Every time.
Well, the media didn't have to do that. History did that already. Let that determine my actions in today's world. Like I have people with like my.
You shouldn't.
I'm sorry.
You shouldn't let that control who you are. You shouldn't You shouldn't let history control the present.
I don't. As far as the white cops killing blacks, I mean, I get upset with that, but I'm more upset with my best friend was killed by black people. I think black people should be more upset about that. They always want to, and I tell my people, hey, y'all get upset when a white guy kills a black cop, but when a black person kills a black person, y'all go with the no snitch. Y'all don't want to say anything.
It happens all the time. It's not news because it happens so much. That's
right.
What. And white people, white cops will kill white people all the time, but it's not news because it happens every day. And the thing about it is with slavery, what people don't understand is 200 years ago, slavery. Well, let's go back 300 years. 300 years ago, slavery was worldwide. It was a worldwide institution in practically every country in the world.
It's still present. It's not chains and plantations anymore.
I'm sorry?
It's still present. It's just not chains and plantations anymore.
Oh, right.
It's a form of economic. Yeah, you're right. There's been an economic shift. Good point.
It's changed its form, but it still exists. But the Africans themselves, Dr. Livingstone, when the first explorer in Africa, his express reason for going down there was to save the souls of the savages and stop the slave trade. The Africans were trading each other. They were selling each other. The kings down there would sell their people off to the Arab slave traders, and it was just slavery in the past was not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. It was everywhere. So you can't look at it in the same way that we look at it today in hindsight, because we weren't there. They had slavery in Rome. They had slavery everywhere. It was everywhere. You know what I mean? But so why single out white people for having slaves when everybody else had them too? Even the black people had slaves in Africa. So it's the victim card just won't play, because people that use the victim card are going to be victims.
Well, as far as I can't really speak on slavery around the world because I haven't lived or researched as much, but I'm wondering if it was, it could have been slavery. People are lower in. I guess had it been like money to exchange, would we call those slaves employees? I don't know, but as far as here in America, I think why people have, not saying victim, I guess a lot of blacks want credit because a lot of African Americans invented a lot of things that they don't get credit for. They call Henry Ford made the cars, but he was big for the manufacture of cars. He didn't invent the cars.
Well, I don't know about that. You could be right, but
peanut butter, light, the lights, whole list of things that I guess people they just want their inclusion. We contributed to America also, but yet we don't have, or it seems, well, right now I guess you can say we have certain rights, but for all that we've given to this country too, why were we being lynched? Why do we have to march and fight for our freedom or fight for rights or fight for equality?
You don't.
That's not victim. It's like they're human. That's human.
You don't have to. You don't have. It's a myth. It's a media-driven myth that black people are oppressed.
I can speak for myself. I've been on a job where the manager has told me I think he said 3 things working against me. I was a minority, I was a female, and I was young.
He wasn't oppressing you. He was trying to help you. He was telling you the truth. He was just trying to tell you the truth as he saw it. Let me tell you something you probably don't know. You can check this out. It was the first self-made millionaire, female millionaire in America, the very first one who made her own $1 million was a black woman. She was born a slave. Now, how do you reconcile that with this victim mentality of black people? Black people don't understand.
Not all black people do the victim role. Like I say, I turn my frustration into motivation. I have been on jobs where I got my education. I have a college degree. I present myself well, and I'm still not getting to where I need to be. And I'm not going to play the victim role. I'm just going to push through it. And a lot of people need to have that survival instinct. Okay, yes, I am black in America, and they might not want us to do this or might not let us do this, but I'm still going to get it done by any means necessary. And I think that's probably the mentality that she had.
Well, I'm not saying that prejudice doesn't exist. It does exist. I'm saying you can't let it hold you back.
Right, I agree with you.
It didn't let the millionaire hold her back,
But it's so hard for someone who's black to even get a job in the first place, and anyone that thinks that's not the truth is kidding themselves. In the town where I live, it's horrible if you look overall the unemployment rates for African Americans. It is very, very high. These kids are coming out of high school. They have no opportunities. They have no money. They've raised themselves. Mom's trying to make a living to try to put money on the table, and they're struggling. You know,
yeah, you know why?
It's not such a thing. It's not even such a thing as playing the race card. It's seriously. I'm old enough to have seen a lot and have been an employer, and I've seen what a lot of people go through. It is sad. You know, if you were a black in America, your chance of getting a job is very, very difficult. You know, you have a degree which is helping you definitely. Without that degree, though, how many times do you get turned over for a job, and then you see someone who's less qualified gets it because they're white? That's not fair. And I'm white.
And their names on the application means a lot, and they think that's a myth, and it's true.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you name a child with an African American sounding name, they're less likely to get called for an interview. I know that as for a fact. There is not a question.
The young black man that I spoke about before from Chicago, he said that he came down here to get a job because he could not get a job up in Chicago, and he was 24 years old, had no previous record, no nothing. And when he got his job down here, he got on at McDonald's here in the town next to mine, and he said that when he walked in and got his job, he cried.
Yep. Oh, yes. It's very, very difficult.
He said it was just so nice to have, it was just so good to have a job.
You know, and I like so he was saying earlier, the guy was saying earlier about whites being forced on blacks to love each other or anything. I believe, and I've raised my children to believe, that this is America. We are all free. You are free to love whoever you want. That is, I don't care if you're black, if you're white, you're Chinese. I don't care if you want to love another. If you're a man and want to love a man. I don't care if you're a woman and want to love a woman. I don't care. I really don't care. If you can be happy and not hurt anyone else, then you should have all the rights as an American. You know, if you're black and want to marry a white woman, go for it. If you're a white woman and want to marry a black guy, go for it. I really don't care. I don't think we have any right to tell someone what to do in their own bedroom or tell anybody who they have a right to marry.
I don't either.
Not at all. And I've raised my children.
I have gay friends, and they're just some of the most wonderful people that you'd ever want to meet.
Absolutely.
I'm not gay, but you know, I'm included in their activities and, you know, invited places, and they treat me like a queen, you know.
If either of my children would come home, if either of my children would come home and tell me they were gay, I would not care. As long as they were with somebody who treats them well, I don't care who they're with. It's their choice, not mine. I live in an area that is the hotbed for Klan activity, hotbed. And the guy who was talking, a lot of this stuff is like, God, I almost think you should have a Klan card in his wallet. That's wrong. This is 2016. A black person and a white person is no different. Do you know the difference in our skin is caused by how much time is and how close we are to the sun, and it's melatonin? It has nothing to do with anything other than where we grew up because of the amount of time in the sun. I'm Irish, so I'm Irish American, so I have blue eyes, started out with blonde hair, now it's light brown. I burn in the sun. Someone who's darker, it's because their families have their skin has adapted. That's just how it is. That's how animals adapt, how people adapt. I taught my daughter one time, she was hanging around with kids, and she started with this prejudice crap. And I had a store, and she made a comment to someone that was a child that was half black and half white. I told her, you have two choices. You can go, and you can sit in timeout until the girl leaves the store, or you can go sit and talk to her and have fun. And they ended up sitting right in front of the counter. Everybody had to walk around them. I said, I'm sorry, this is a very important lesson for these children. And away they went. I do not tolerate racism at all. This is 2016, and it's going to keep America in the back. There's no reason for people to be shot just because of the color of their skin. There is no reason. I think the problem isn't so much of the color of the skin of the people who are driving the cars at this point. The problem is the fact that the people who are police are scared because of the shit that's going down. They are shooting first and then asking questions later, and they are getting away with whatever they're doing. So that's more of a problem than the color of anybody's skin. They're shooting and getting away with it. If you're a cop and you shoot someone, I don't care who you shoot, it should be taken out of the fact that you're a police officer, and you should be tried by a tribunal, almost like if there's an airplane crash, then there's a special agency that comes in and has nothing to do with airlines. They need to have that for the police to stop this brutality, and that's the only way it's going to happen. Brutality is happening in whites and it's happening in blacks. The only difference is the blacks have learned now that they have got to film it so that people don't get away with crap.
I was just about to say, it's so many. I'm from, I don't know if we're supposed to say we're from out here, but it's like 8 unsolved murders, and I'm thinking some of those murders, it seems that I talked to the police, the authorities, Texas, marshals and all of that, and they don't seem like they're putting in too much effort. It almost makes me wonder, was this a cop murder that wasn't recorded? All these unsolved murders that they don't seem like they're trying to solve.
Well, if you figure if you're a police officer and you're the deputies have to work with you, and the justices have to work with you, and the judges have to work with you, and you have to help each other, and the district attorney and the whole way up. Well, they're going to go easy on you. They're not going to care. They lie. There's that code of honor or whatever. They lie. Mm-hmm. It can't continue. We have got to change. I mean, when you have the kind of BS that just went down with the email account with Hillary Clinton, when you have that shit go down and she got away with that, what do you think the rest of the world thinks? Right. How can anybody think that this whole country is not so horribly corrupt at this point that it can continue? Something's going to happen, and I really feel it's going to be civil war, and that's really sad.
We need more cops to be from the community. There's a lot of people that they out here shooting and they don't know the community, so they're scared and they don't care. Like a lot of my parents or my classmates, I had their parents were officers or whatever, and my mom went to school with their parents, so we all kind of like knew each other. But now you got people that's coming in the communities and they're not even from here.
The laws need to go back to the way they were when I was growing up. If you had a job working for the city, you lived in the city. So consequently, the cops for the city lived right within the city neighborhoods. So they knew they could come in and they knew everything that was going on. They knew everybody that was doing anything. It was insane because when something was going down, the neighbors were calling them and telling them, and it kept everybody safer. You can't have somebody that lives in the richer part of town come down who, say they're white and they're pretty wealthy, well off, and they're very highly connected. They cannot be policing down in the poorer African American or Mexican or whatever neighborhoods. They have no connection to there. They shouldn't be there. The people who are policing those areas should live there.
I thought you said. Did you say you were Indian or Irish?
I'm Irish.
I'm Choctaw Indian, or I don't claim Indian. That's not what we were. That's what Christopher Columbus thought that we were.
But so you're Choctaw. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Let me interject one thing here. Let's see. It's my contention that while there is racism in America, and anywhere else you go to, it's a biological thing, basically. But it's not a big deal, Madam, the millionaire woman I spoke of, she became a millionaire. She was born in the South, born from a slave mother, although she wasn't a slave, but her mother had been a slave, and she became the first self-made female millionaire in America. Now, how did she do that? How did Martin Luther King get a Ph.D. before blacks could go to white schools? How did that happen? How did Oprah Winfrey become one of the richest women in the world if black people are so put upon and oppressed?
It wasn't easy. I'll tell you that.
Well, because if you think about it, how many blacks are truly?
What I'm trying to tell you, it's the way you're raised. It's not the color of your skin. It's the way you're raised.
I have to totally strongly disagree with you. Yeah, a few of us get through that little. It's a quota to meet.
Yeah, you can. Okay, so there's a couple black women who have gone through the ceiling, and a few black men, but for the most part, they're truly excluded. They really are, and it is sad. You know, what I hope is through all of this is people are opening their eyes. One thing I have read online several times, and I think it might be true. You know, this has exploded because everybody was following the email scandal with Hillary Clinton so closely, and so they bring the shooting out. They put it to the forefront of the news, and so everybody stops talking about Hillary, and maybe it'll calm down before Philadelphia and the convention. I really think that there is going to be riots at the convention. I really do, and it's sad because the Bernie Sanders people are going there truly to try to spread love and to try to show that there's another way. We don't have to go bomb countries. We don't have to do all this crap. You know, we can go and be the country we used to be. You know,
and it seems like a pattern. Every time a cop kills a black person,
the preacher and
cop
the choir talk about it, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.
The preacher
I don't know. He was making me so angry. I was like furiously typing, and I said I want to smack him because he was so prejudiced. It was driving me crazy.
Yeah,
so I said I had to come.
He's totally disconnected.
Yeah,
yes, that caller from Northeast Texas has left the show. He's no longer online.
Oh, he's in Texas.
Northeast Texas.
Yeah, he did hang up. He is no longer here.
Bye.
Yeah.
Well, the young black man that I was speaking with, he has firsthand account. And he said that he was lucky that, you know, he was raised by his mother and his grandmother and was never allowed to get in trouble and stuff like that. And he has resisted everything that would get him in trouble. But he did say that he said up there, he said because of the way that a lot of them are raised and there are no job opportunities, the only thing left to a lot of them is to either sell drugs or join gangs. And he said that's where all the trouble is coming from.
And it's coming. It's trickle-down economics. If you really trace it back, that's what it is. It is really, you know, where they said, we'll give all the money to the people at the top and it'll trickle down. It didn't trickle down. They sent it out and they sent the jobs away. You know, it used to be you'd go out of high school and you'd go work in a factory. You had a much better chance, even as a person of color, to get a job. Now, even the white people can't get jobs. No one has jobs. The only people that have money are the people that are heading corporations, and everyone else is working just about minimum wage, and they can't support their family anymore. My brother came right out of high school in the 70s and made $20 an hour as a laborer in a steel mill. Now, I was unemployed for many, many years, just got a job at $9 an hour. I have decades of experience as a manager, as a business manager and entrepreneur.
Those steel mills are all gone now, aren't they?
Yes,
well,
it's all.
The thing is about that. Where I'm from, you go to restaurants and they're gonna have all the, I guess, darker, I don't even want to say color people in the back. You won't see a lot of people as being waitresses or anything like that. And as far as the companies down there, like Kimmy Clark and Campbell Soup, they're pushing out the vets who've been there for a while and bringing in newer people on temp agency, making cheaper money or making, like you said, minimum wage. They can get them to do the job.